Hello there. Hey, wait a minute.
Where are you?
Here I am, right in this vase.
Why, you're a rose.
That's right. My name's Johnny. Johnny Rose. What's yours?
And?
Well, Ann, this sure is a nice house you have here. Never saw one like it before. The last house I lived in was a lot bigger than this. It had hundreds of windows so I could see the sun all day long. It was called a greenhouse. Of course, before that, I lived outdoors. Here I am on the ranch where I was raised, in Alameda County, California. Lots of interesting things go on here. You should have seen the fuss they made getting ready for me. Long before I was expected, they started getting the land ready. First, they turned under a crop that was grown here just to build up the soil. These plants are full of vitamins and nutrients, and after they're buried for a while, the soil releases them for us to feed on a little bit at a time. Here they're subsoiling a field. A long chisel is pulled through the soil to a depth of about 25 inches. You know, many heavy pieces of equipment must run over the soil for rose production. This compacts the soil so that it's difficult for air and water to penetrate and for our roots to grow. It takes a lot of power to do this. It takes 2 big tractors to pull this ripper through the soil. They give the land a good soaking to make it nice and mellow and easy to work into a fine seed bed for planting. After the soil has had time to dry out so tractors and machines can work on it, they go over the land with the disking machine. This is where the new plants will take root and grow, so extra care is taken to be sure that the soil is free of big lumps, clods of hard earth, and other things that might make it hard for a rose to grow. When the land is ready, the soil is fumigated and sprayed with chemicals to kill any insect or germ that might harm the young rose plants.
What's that machine doing?
This machine puts down long strips of paper to protect the seed bed. It keeps the sun out and holds soil moisture in. Of course, without the sun, weeds can't grow, so the seed bed stays neat and clean until it's planted with rootstock. After the paper strips are laid, the field is furrowed out so that it's all ready for planting and irrigating. This is what we call the mother block, where plants are raised to be used as the rootstock. My mother's in this picture, but it's awfully hard to point her out. If you've ever tried to find your mother in her old class picture, then you know exactly what I mean.
Yes, I know.
All the plants growing here are a species variety, flowers that were wild originally. Species varieties are used to provide rootstock for hybrid varieties because their roots are strong and healthy. My rootstock, or mother's name, is called Maneti. It is used for greenhouse roses because it makes big, strong plants for lots of flower production all year round. In the fall, men go into the field with sharp clippers to select the healthy, full-grown canes. These canes would then provide the rootstock. The plants let the workers know it's time for cutting by letting a few leaves drop to the ground. After these canes are gathered, they're bundled together and taken to the shed to be made into cuttings.
What are cuttings?
Oh, that's what they call the canes after they've been cut into small pieces, ready for planting to make new plants. So they're easier to handle. In the shed, the long canes are cut into pieces about 9 inches long. When all the leaves are off, you can see there's a little bud where each leaf used to be. Two buds are left at the top end so they can grow later on. After the buds are removed, the finished cutting is dipped to keep it free from disease. Certain amounts of these cuttings are wrapped together into one big bundle for easy handling. Each will provide rootstock for about 200 new rose plants.
I didn't know they kept you so busy.
This is only the beginning. The planters take bundles of prepared cuttings and move along the rows, sticking them into the seed bed. The holes in the paper make it easy to space the plants. There I am. From those two buds, new growth will sprout as the cutting begins to put roots down into the soil. Water is the lifeblood of any crop, including roses. As soon as the planting is completed, we get a long drink of water from the irrigation pipes. While the grower and his crew always take good care of us, they keep special watch for the next 5 or 6 months to prevent anything that might hurt us. Life is full of hazards for any growing thing, and this is especially true for roses. Weeds could grow up around us and choke us, or maybe the greedy things would take all the nourishment we roses need. Besides weeds, there's a form of mildew that attacks roses, and, of course, roses make a very tasty dish for aphids and other creepy-crawly things. At the first sign of weeds or other volunteer growth that may try to use the food we roses need, the crew is right there to get rid of it. As they hoe, they also work air into the soil to help our newly formed roots. Frequent cultivation keeps the soil loose and workable and makes it easier for the fertilizer, water, and air to get to our roots. Finally, about May or June, the big day arrives. Our field of rootstock has taken hold and is growing vigorously. To maintain this vigorous growth, the soil is regularly fertilized. Now we're sturdy and just about strong enough for budding.
What's that man doing?
This is my father's block where the buds come from. They pick only the biggest and the strongest stems to be used for budwood. These stems are called scions. When the scions get to the shed, the girls cut the leaves and remove all the thorns, leaving the eyes or buds. After it has been budded into the rootstock, each of these buds will grow the hybrid rose as you know it. Thousands of scions of many different and popular rose varieties are prepared in this fashion each season. This is the bundle my father was in. You see how carefully they wrap them and keep dunking them in that big tub of water? That's so the scion won't dry out and lose vitality. Everyone is so careful with us. See all those layers of newspaper? That'll help keep the moisture in and will also help to keep us from being bumped or jostled too much. There I am, labeled and all ready to go. Out in the field, everything's ready for the big operation. The crews have their knives, rubber bands, and bundles of budwood. This man is an expert. He has spent many years working at his trade. See how quickly he makes the cross-shaped cut, cuts a bud from the scion, and inserts it under the bark? There I am. It's hard to believe that I was ever that little, now that I'm full grown. Here comes the tire. He's fast and accurate, too. See how he wraps the cut with the budding rubber so I can't fall out, but leaves an opening so that I can breathe and see what's going on. They let us rest for about a month. We get nourishment from the rootstock and begin to grow. By the time we've grown to the rootstock, they come around and cut the rubber bands off.
It must have been a relief to get that tight thing off.
It sure is. And now that we're growing so well, they break the tops of the rootstock and bend them over to one side so we'll get more sunshine. We get more food that way, too. With all that sun and food, we really get going. Why, before I knew it, I wasn't just a little sprout anymore, but I was on my way to become a full-grown adult plant. And always there is water, the liquid magic that enables us to combine air, sunshine, and minerals into a leaf or branch. When I was 9 inches tall, our grower decided we could do without those bent-over tops. So he sent a crew to cut them off and pile them all together. This machine is a chopper. What an experience. They put our old tops in one end, it chops them up, and sprays them out the other. Now we're what you might call teenagers, and, of course, we Roses were busy getting acquainted. Our family took up a whole row. Carol Amling lived next door. Snow White was in our block, too. Fay Ann and Rosemary were next-door neighbors. They were both special friends of Goldilocks, who lived across the road, but she and I only had a nodding acquaintance. We didn't have much time to socialize, though. Once our boss, the grower, got going, he really kept us hopping.
Was there always something going on?
Oh, my, yes. If they weren't cultivating, then they were hoeing around us, fighting the weeds. Every now and then, we'd get a drink of water.
What are they doing to you now?
This was not one of our favorite experiences. It's more than a little bit stifling to be dusted with chemicals and insecticides. It's pretty scary, too. That thing roars by too loud and too close for comfort. We just hold our breath and bear it. Finally, we're ready to take our first step towards the big glass houses. There's excitement in the air when the big day arrives. First, they take off all our tops. They have a machine that takes everything taller than 14 inches right off. We don't need that anymore, and besides, it would get in the way while we're traveling. After the topper has finished, this big tractor comes by. It has a special U-shaped blade that sticks down into the soil 18 inches. It loosens the soil around our roots and lifts us up a little. That way, we don't have to get tugged or pulled from our bed, but just picked up. Behind the tractor come the men who take us out of the soil and pack us in bundles and tie them up. They leave the bundles on the ground, and the next workers pick us up and put us in the truck for the trip. Even though we don't have far to go, it's very exciting. We've never been out of our nursery fields before, and we've never been for a ride in a truck.
Where are you going now?
We're going to the warehouse. There's another crew waiting for us there. They take us off the truck and stack us up inside. First, men with shears trim each plant. They remove all weak growth and any bad branches.
Didn't it hurt?
Nah. When we had our trim, we moved along to the graders. This is sort of like the end of the term in school. They have 3 grades, triple X, double X, and just plain X. Anyone that's unlucky enough to be just plain X is thrown away. From now on, all plants of the same grade stay together. The counter puts us together in groups of 50. Then we go for a dip in a tank full of a solution that keeps us healthy and disease-free while we're in storage. The packer takes us off the drain board and puts us in a case. There's room here for 400 plants or 8 units of 50 plants. This case is a paper bag lined with polyethylene in a corrugated cardboard carton. Research men from the University of California Agricultural Extension Service And the United States Department of Agriculture worked with the grower to develop this new modern package.
My, they certainly take good care of you.
Yes, indeed. Then they seal us up and label the outside with our name, grade, and how many of us there are. Now we're ready for the trip to cold storage at San Jose. That's 25 miles away, but we go there because they have the best facilities around. Cold storage keeps us in a good dormant condition until the greenhouse grower is ready to plant us in his greenhouse. We generally don't stay in cold storage for too long. The whole operation is designed to keep us out of the soil for as short a time as possible. When the order comes in from the greenhouseman, off we go. And this time, it's a new adventure. Greenhouses, not just in California, but in all 50 states and Canada, need us in a hurry. So naturally, we're off to the airport to catch the first flight out. The airport is always a busy place. Buses and cars arrive one after the other with passengers for the great airplanes. Trucks come and go, picking up and delivering perishable air freight. We were delivered to the freight dock and rushed aboard our plane, which was ready and waiting. As VIPs, that's very important passengers, naturally we receive the special care and attention of the airline's crew. Before you could say Jack Robinson, we were all loaded up and ready to go. I'll bet you didn't know that roses could fly, but sure enough, some of us do.
So this was your house with hundreds of windows.
Yep, that's it. This is the greenhouse. As soon as we arrive, the nurseryman unpacks us. We are all ready for planting, thanks to the special care that we receive from our grower all during our life. We made the trip and arrived in top-notch shape. Immediately after unpacking, we were popped into nice warm beds and waited on hand and foot until we were ready for the florist. You see, we were grown especially for this greenhouse, so naturally we're treated differently than garden roses. Since we are of such healthy stock, and since we are grown in greenhouses under ideal conditions, the bushes produce fine, long-stemmed, beautiful roses like me. When your father bought us this afternoon at the florist, we certainly were excited. Of course, I've traveled by truck and by airplane too, but I'd never been in a car. None of the other flowers had been in someone's home either, and they all said things like, good luck and have a nice trip. We did have a pleasant trip, Anne, and I must say I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too, Johnny.